What I love about myself is that I love Black history. I love our stories. I love telling our stories. I have an innate curiosity about where we've been, our collective lived experiences, but also those individual experiences that go very unnoticed, untold, and dismissed, but they're so critical to the fabric of our country,
Yeah.
because we are such victors. Even when it appears that it is not a victory, we have contributed so much to other people's victories. That's our victory too. My name's Deborah Riley Draper. I live in Atlanta. I'm a filmmaker. My first film was Versailles 73, American Runway Revolution, about the Black models that changed fashion forever in
Mhm.
1973 in Paris. That was Beth Ann Hardison, Kadine's mom,
Yes.
Pat Cleveland, Alva Chen, Norma Jean Darden. They tore the roof off the Chateau of de Versailles in 1973 and
Mm.
really created opportunity for Black models. So that was my first film.
What I love about your work is the personalized history behind it, and how we're so able to really like see it more than just a thing that happened, but like actually be connected to it. You know what I mean?
Thank you for saying that, because that's what I wanted the viewer to feel. I wanted them to feel that Augusta, spoiler alert, I wanted them to feel that Augusta Stratford did what she did when she got on that train. I wanted people to feel that Lula Williams opened not one, not two, but three movie theaters as a Black woman in the 1920s, right?
Yeah.
So the contribution of these Black women to Black Wall Street, that was important. And I wanted to put some faces to the names and not just say the Tulsa massacre. I wanted us to meet the community.
See, and I love that too. And I was going to ask you about that because very often, I know you know, like we refer to this as a riot, as a massacre, which I think gives you the idea of what it was more so than a riot. But when you titled this "The Legacy of Black Wall Street," you put a different power to the devastation. Can you talk about like your perspective of what happened to our people in Tulsa?
And I'll tell you why the legacy is important, Danielle. You and I are the legacy of Lula Williams. She was a media mogul in
I
1921.
was like, I did not know her.
Yes. So you are her. She created entertainment for the people of Greenwood. She made sure that the Greenwood
Hmm.
community had access to film, had access to concerts, to shows. She even had boxing matches. So she was a curator of entertainment for her community. So we are her legacy, right? So
Yeah.
it's important, that we understand that there was a woman there that was doing the things that we aspire to still do right now, and that
Hmm.
we stand on her shoulders. So that I wanted people to see that, and I wanted them to hear, the audience to hear words that were written. You hear a lot of poetry and a lot of words and a lot of letters. Those are their words. Those aren't my words. That's how they
Hmm.
saw the world. That's how they felt about the world. Such power in their words, right? Such joy,
Yeah.
such confidence, such bravery in those
Yeah.
words. And in a time such as now, I think it's important that we are reminded that we are courageous and brave, and we've been courageous and brave, even when people insult us, even when people attack us. We
Right.
are regal and we are strong and we are courageous and we are brave, even though we may be marginalized and oppressed in other people's definitions. We are not in our soul and in our hearts, and they can't take what is there from us. So that's why I wanted us to see green. I wanted us to see those drop tops they had back in the 20s.
That's what I'm like. That's what I love most
The
about what
fur
you have done.
the fur coats. My husband was watching. He was like, "Oh, those brothers were cold. Look at those suits, and briefcases.
Listen,
They
good old. This and y'all, this isn't inappropriate, but this is actually a name that was said in the documentary. But good old Diamond Dick.
Diamond Dig,
Diamond
right?
Dick, to be a young Black man in Tulsa at that time, to amass wealth by just shining shoes
and saving your money.
and saving and then creating wealth from that. I don't think I'm gonna get over what you have done, because just like the Titanic and a lot of these things that have happened, like, we know the story.
Yeah.
We know the story. We know that Tulsa ends in death and destruction, but these people lived. And I think one of the descendants that you interviewed talked about the idea that, yeah, like, we see this stuff in media and the story is usually told in the place of like, they killed us. But these Black people organized, set themselves up around Tulsa, around Greenwood, as military. And some of them were military folk, but
some of them were. They had served their country in World War I. These Black men had served, so they demanded respect. And as Angela Davis says, when in the documentary, and let me tell you, having to sit with Angela Davis was everything to me. Okay.
Yeah, I know, as a Black woman, as a history buff, that is the person that you want to sit with.
It was everything. And when Angela Davis says, when they come for Black liberation, they always want to come with extreme violence. I was like, let me tell you, say it again. I was enthralled with our conversation because it put so many things in perspective. Greenwood was thriving. Greenwood was amazing. And that became a threat. Because oftentimes Black success and Black excellence is regarded as a threat. And it's never threatening.
And ain't nobody even trying to like hurt you, get above you, be better than you. We literally were trying to even the playing field.
And be the very best that we can be.
But we can't help that that's what we give.
Yeah, I mean, they were given, 1921, they had 3 Black millionaires. They earned that right. And they created that space for their dollar to circulate so many times that millionaires were being built the old-fashioned way.
And see, and that part to me, Ms. Deborah, is the part that hurts my feelings, right? Because the massacre it was genocide. We were dealing with this, but we also have to think a little bit further in the fact that these people were generating wealth, right? And were creating wealth for their people, and which would have given Black folk the chance to create generational wealth.
Yes.
So with the destruction of Greenwood came the destruction of the ability to go into generational wealth and to build based on family, old money. Where are our Rockefellers?
Thank you. Where's our old money?
Where's our Koch brothers?
I want exactly, because what we want 100 years from now is to see our old money. We don't want to see our new money.
Yeah, like, shout out to new money. Can't wait to get me some. But I just want, it just makes no sense to me that we don't have generational Black wealth like that. And we have to look at. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was saying I want you to have new money now, so 100 years from now, your descendants have old money. So they have old money.
That's right. I mean, and I was just looking at some articles earlier today, and I saw one that was talking about the fact that people in Tulsa are feeling like nothing has been done to make amends or improve the lives of the Black folks there, and that Tulsa is becoming almost like a social media atmosphere, a social media space, where this one activist says it feels like that people are profiting off of Black death, and saying that if the funds were going to a place where it needed to go, then, there would be no problem with it. It's our history, it's our stories, but because it hasn't been addressed, it's hard. It makes everybody feel like, Tulsa is being treated as like this hot topic.
Well, I invite people to watch part 2, because the post-massacre discussion of what is the legacy right now is a part of episode 2. And we really have to address where we are as African Americans in this country and what our role is, what our role should be, and how oppression and not unconscious, but conscious, legalized oppression, marginalization, and a racialized legal and institutional system, what that has done to our people.
Right.
Not, yes, yes, we have amazing examples in every field, but we should have 100 times more than that.
And I feel like did you see the clip where Biden, April Ryan, I believe, was asking at the press conference about reparations, and Biden kind of avoided, or not reparations, but apologizing.
You know,
And Biden kind of didn't
you know,
address
here's
that.
the thing.
Mr. President, should there be an apology for Tulsa, for the massacre, sir? Mr. President, should there be an apology, a presidential apology for the massacre here in Tulsa?
You know, here's the thing. Apology and action. Apology plus
Because I'm like, well, what's
corrective
the apology
action.
going to do unless there's something attached?
Apology is great. Restorative action is wonderful because that lets people know that you recognize what happened. You acknowledge that it shouldn't have happened, and we want to correct it in the best possible ways that we can. And I
Yeah.
think that's so important. This is a beautiful community that was built and still striving to be a beautiful community now. So when other communities across this world are destroyed, people circle that community and they pour into that community and
Yeah.
they rebuild that community so that community can be restored, right?
Yeah.
So when you violate someone, you should be held accountable and you should pay restitution or reparation in accordance with the violation that happened.
Yeah, because it's not like we just asking for a bunch of money. It's the fact that these Black people it was taken from them. The ability to build actual wealth was taken away, and that affected generation after generation until now.
Yes, because, I'm a historian. So when we looked in the records, we looked at the insurance claims that were filed. So these
Oh, no.
African Americans filed their insurance, and those insurance companies denied every single claim. So when you deny a claim for a hotel or a funeral
Wow.
parlor or an automobile repair shop or a movie theater, and you don't pay that claim to rebuild a thriving business, you are contributing to the destruction of not only the building, but you're contributing to the destruction of generational wealth. You're contributing to the downgrading of occupations. You're contributing to a struggle in a community. And what's beautiful about the Greenwood community is they had resilience and they came back, even though
Yeah.
they didn't get those insurance. Like in episode 2, you will see that fight. And that fight that was in them, that's the fight that's in us. And that's the fight that we need to hold on to be inspired. That's the
Yeah.
fight that we have to remember that, yes, sometimes that insult and that injury is grave and it's deadly and it's horrific, but you're not going to take my humanity from me, and you're
Yeah.
not going to take my dreams, because I'm going to come back and I'm still going to reclaim what is mine. That is what I learned from the people of Greenwood.
My God. And that's a different type of resiliency. The
Woo!
Black folks from that community. It's a lot. It's so much to think about, and to be connected as a Black person, to have that on your heart and your spirit, and to know that this is still the world that we live in today, where people are thinking that, either we are holding on to something and we need to let it go and move forward,
I
or,
know.
we're asking for a bunch of free money because that's just what we do.
Yeah.
And but it's so much deeper than everything.
It,
This
it,
is
it,
like,
it is. That's why it was such an honor to direct this and to produce this for OWN. And I'm grateful for the network, because the OWN network and Trailblazer Productions gave me, as a Black woman, an opportunity to tell a story about a seminal point in history, about our history and communities that are important to us, in a way that was through my vision and my voice. And
yeah,
it allowed me to put my lens and my perspective on this history and on this lived experience. So thank you to the OWN network. Thank
yeah,
you to Yes, Kai Bo, our development and team. She's our creative executive, and she nurtured me through this process, working with the network, and that allowed me to have some freedom in telling the story in a way that aligns with the women that were of Greenwood, but also with the spirit of how I connected with them as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you as a history buff and a director, and you know the types of stories you want to tell, and this one is definitely one of those special stories.
Mhm.
I'm curious about what challenges did you face in
Oh
making
my
this happen?
gosh, challenges. Telling our stories are always challenging because our records are always hidden. You
I
have
was
to.
like, how the heck? The Descendants is a blessing.
They are a blessing because that's a direct connection to the
Those are stories
humanity,
told right to them, right to their
right?
parents, to their, yeah.
We have to. Our oral history is as powerful as any history book. Our oral history is our history because that what gets passed down, we have to cherish. We have to
And
remember those
continue to,
stories.
yeah,
We have to honor them. And being able to have those descendants there for me was everything because that's their family. And they allowed us to be a part of their family and a part of their legacy and a part of what their families have contributed without us trying to tamp down their stories. Tell your story. Here's a
yeah,
space. Here's a platform. Cry if you need to. Let it come out. Let's share. And that's what that moment was for them. That's what that moment was for me. There were a couple times in the interviews that it was so touching and so compelling that you can't help but feel for another human being, right? you know
yeah,
you realize that our greatest gift is empathy, that when
yeah,
someone is in pain, empathizing, you know letting someone know that as a human being I care, and I do want to listen, and I do want to hear, and I do want to experience this with you. And I think
yeah.
that's what community is. Someone told me just the other day that you have to understand community because it's common unity. And I was like,
Mm,
voila. I never
yeah,
thought about it like that. But yes, so we are all part of a commonality. And so if someone else is hurting, we have
we
to
all are.
address that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That, I mean, you definitely created the community so far, because I know we got one more part to watch next week.
Yes,
But
on
from what I've seen,
Tuesday.
yeah, from what I've seen, you created that community and you allowed us to visit that place and to understand that everybody was contributing to it.
Everybody.
That's the part
It's
that
a
was getting me the
community.
most. When the man had the what was, like a media company almost, and he's hiring Black women to help
Yeah.
sell ads.
AJ Smitherman had a Black
Yes,
female cartoonist. He had a African American advertising department that
I was
created
shook.
ads. They were he ran a company. He had a media property. He had advertising team. They built ads. They laid out the copy. They illustrated
That
it.
part,
Yes.
that part is like what really gets me, because I want to cry thinking about just the idea. It's hard enough creating anything, a company, well, like whatever. It's hard enough as a Black person to do these things, but to do it in this time, and to
Yeah.
do it in this time and thinking about your people.
Wow. Yeah. I when I saw her, I was like, what? She's a Black cartoonist, Black female cartoonist, and
Because we
1999.
exist, like we exist in so many places.
We exist. I'm like, wow, she existed. I couldn't help but make sure her face was in the place, right? Because that means that we can be, because we already were. So if there's some little girl that wants to be an animation queen, she
The
wants to be
foundation
a
has been set.
cartoonist, it was already done. That is already bought and paid for. Have at it. It is yours. Like they came through and they were dreaming big, right? So we have to come through and dream even bigger.
And even
It's
bigger. And as
even
we've seen,
bigger.
we there 100 years sounds so long ago, doesn't it? But when you're able to see not only like the people, the survivors who have been honored yesterday and been honored over the time, and then also to see within your documentary young descendants talking about their grandmother, I was like, oh yeah, this was yesterday.
Yeah. It
This
was
was yesterday.
yesterday. It was yesterday. History is living, you know? The past isn't disconnected from the present or the future. It's all
Yeah,
connected.
it's connected, and it's now that this stuff is happening. I know a lot of folks, you know, when we hear about history and whatever, you displace it. Is
Yeah.
this back there? Or, you know, we look at the pictures and all the civil rights pictures that they took and made black and white.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, we had color pictures then. Like, y'all are trying to make us feel like it was so long ago.
Yeah.
And it was yesterday.
When I was talking to Angela Davis, her life is not yesterday. It's a continuum, because she's here. She's right now.
Exactly.
She was then and she is now.
Right.
She's both. So that means it's a continuum.
We are right in the midst of all of this now. So in this space, as a director, what do you feel most connected to when it comes to telling this story, and in the hopes that your audience is receiving?
You know, what I'm most connected to is humanity. I'm most connected to the people that put on those amazing dresses and those fly shoes and threw on those fur trimmed coats and walked down Greenwood Avenue and turned onto Archer and went down Pine and embodied the spirit of Black excellence. I'm connected to that. And I want the audience to understand that we did the thing. We did it. We did it, and we can do it again and again. And we all need to say no to the people who are trying to get in the way and stop success and thriving of all people of color. We need to let people live. Let people live. Let people
live and let people thrive.
Let them thrive, because my thriving or your thriving does not prohibit anyone else's thriving. So don't take your energy to hate someone else's
Come
thriving.
on with it.
Use your energy for yourself.
Come on, and stop hating on us and take notes at this point.